Is group therapy right for your teenager? Well, let's talk about it today on Tips on Teens. My name is Kent Toussaint. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in helping kids, teens, and families live happier lives. I lead two organizations, the Group Private Practice Teen Therapy Center and the nonprofit 501c3 organization Child and Teen Counseling, both here in Woodland Hills, California. Every Wednesday at noon, I jump onto Facebook Live to answer your parenting questions. Today is no different. Let's jump into today's question. I've been wanting to get my daughter into therapy, but she won't go see a therapist. Whenever we discuss it, I get a lot of pushback from her. She recently told me, though, that she would consider going to some kind of support group. I could see that maybe working for her because she likes talking to other girls. I want to help her, but I'm kind of concerned about other kids being a bad influence on her. I'm scared that if she makes friends with other kids with worse problems than her, it could go the wrong way. I don't know much about it, though. Have you seen this happen? And how does a parent know if a therapy group is helping or not? Wonderful question. Thank you for sending your question in. I think group therapy can be great for teenagers. I myself have been running a group for over 10 years called the Guys Group for high school boys struggling with self-esteem, needing more social support. Also, one of our other therapists, Jennifer Perez, who's an associate professional clinical counselor, is launching a group for high school girls called Free Harbor. There's a link below if you want to get more information on those. But group therapy can be great because if you've got a bunch of teenagers in a group, they all have a shared experience, a shared culture. There's shared cultural norms, shared pop culture references that can really go a long way to help connect and people feel bonded with one another. For example, if I'm a teenager of the 80s, and if I'm making friends and they're from the 80s too, and we have some shared musical interests or TV interests from the past, there's this connection. Oh, you get what I get. You live the same experience I did, and it's different because if your parents from the 40s or 50s, they may have lived at that time, but they weren't a teenager at that time. So it's a different culture. Just like you are not a teenager now, but your kids are. So they're different cultures. And those cultural norms can help bring people together. Now, the benefit of group therapy is that you have this group of teenagers together, but you also have a therapist who specializes in helping kids and teens. And that therapist can help, nurture the conversations to make sure the conversation is going in a healthy way. That therapist is hopefully a healthy, positive role model for the kids that the kids respect, which again can take time sometimes to build that, but usually it works pretty well. But that therapist adds a component that makes it different than your kid just hanging out with friends, because that therapist can start questioning assumptions, help challenge their choices, and help them find new ways to interact in the world. Now, whether therapy is benefiting your kid or not, that's really depending on what your goals of therapy are and what the group is designed to do. So that's a pretty nuanced question. So I think it's important that if you get your kid into therapy, you talk to that therapist about what are your goals and what does the therapy group offer. There are certain things the group can't really help with. I mean, again, depending on the structure of the group, but if it's just strictly a group for teenagers, and there's relationship issues between you and your teenager, well, you can't come into the group because you're not 16 or 13, depending on the age of the group. So for something like that and developing, healthy relationships in the family, you may need to have individual and or family therapy on top of that. So it just depends on what the goals are and whether those kids are going to be a bad influence on your kid. Actually, I generally see the opposite. I generally have a mix of kids, for example, like weed smoking. I understand why that would cause a lot of parents some concern. Generally, in my group, there's some kids who smoke, some kids who don't. Sometimes it's all, sometimes it's none. It just depends on the makeup of the group at that time. And generally, what my experience is, the kids who don't smoke see the other kids and go, that's kind of why I don't think I want to smoke. And oftentimes, if kids are making some real knucklehead choices, the other kids in the group will call them out, more so in the way that I could, because they're 16 and I'm the adult. So again, I think it's really important that you research and talk to the therapist that you're wanting to get therapy with for the group. Make sure it's the right fit. Not every therapy group is the right for every kid, depending on what their needs are and what the group offers. For example, you don't want your kid to go to a group that's focused on addiction if your kid's issues are not about drugs. that's not really the right fit for your kid. But if your kid's looking for somewhere that they can connect and talk and process, be more open, you're wanting more of a process group, much like the guys group or Free Harbor here at Teen Therapy Center. Anyways, it's a great question. Keep them coming. If you have a question you want me to answer here on Tips on Teens, email us at tipsonteens@teentherapycenter.com or direct message us right here on Facebook. We love your questions. Again, my name is Kent Toussaint from Teen Therapy Center and Child and Teen Counseling, and I will see you guys next Wednesday at noon. Bye-bye.